Well, good morning. I dumped 3/8 of an inch out of the rain gauge this morning. I'm sure we're going to get a lot more, but that puts the total up to 7 inches in my neck of the woods. So, yeah, it looks like some pretty nasty storms are headed our way, too. So, I'm going to read from Romans 1, just one verse. No, two verses, actually, 19 and 20. For what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made, so they are without excuse. I don't know how many of you watched the Artemis II re-entry and other parts of the mission, but the re-entry part I'm going to talk about. I watched the video of them sitting down after they'd been flown back to Houston, and they're sitting in chairs, each have a mic, and they each give a brief statement. And I couldn't help but notice the profound experience they each clearly had experienced in that 10-day mission to the moon. It was very obvious. Reed Weissman started describing just 24 hours earlier, the Earth was this big in their window. They were moving, I think he said Mach 39. That was during the re-entry part in that 6-minute blackout. And then he described how the view from there was, they were all excited when they taken off and the excitement, but then the reality that they were 250,000 plus miles away from humans on that blue ball spinning through space, and their family and their loved ones, and how much that was, you could tell that had a big psychological effect on the human brain, the human experience that we all are in. And then the female, I forget her name. They all shared a statement, but the female astronaut shared how she had a definition of crew and what a crew was before they left. They learned the skills to work together and all of the how she defined crew. Well, after that mission, she redefined crew, and then she was pointing at Earth when they were up there, that she was pointing that all of us on planet Earth are a crew, and how we should love one another. And I found that very interesting on that perspective. And they each had a very profound statement. I can't remember the other two offhand, but watch the video if you have a chance. But it reminded me of this passage because they were obviously in awe of creation and how it's so finely tuned and held together. And it also reminded me of chapter 6 in the book of Enoch, where Enoch is taken by the angels and he goes a little farther he's taken a little farther than the moon. He goes all throughout the universe and the heavens, and he's describing all of the places that he's seen. And I can't imagine the profound impact that had on him. Must have been pretty big, because he didn't die. God took him. He lived a life such that God took him, and he was no more. So one of the few, Elijah, Jesus ascended. The rest of us are creeping ever so close to that final journey of death that we all have to endure and cross over because of what happened in the Garden of Eden. But I'm going to read that again. Chapter 1, 19 through 20. For what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world, in the things that have been made, so that they, we, I, you, me, we, are without excuse. All righty. Take care. God bless.